All right. We are back at it again. We're going to check out 6.3 day 2. Yesterday we talked about the operations part. Today we are going to talk about this composition part. Composition is basically going to be plugging one function into the other. So you're composing, like you're putting together, like with music. So we're going to plug one of the functions into anywhere you have an x of the other function. And we'll kind of ease into this. So we have done this a lot. This simply means that you're going to put a 5 where x was and then do the math. So I'm going to take the rule they gave me, 3 times something plus 5, but the something I'm plugging in is a 5 as well. And then you just got to remember PEMDAS because you do have to do things in the proper math order. So I end up with 15 plus 5, so the answer is 20, which means when you take function f and you plug in a 5, you get out a 20. All right. Here, take g, which is this function, and you're plugging in a -4. So I'm going to put the -4 in where the x used to be, and everything else still happens the same. It's times 2, it's squared, it's -7. You can do this on your calculator, or you can use PEMDAS. -4, when you square it, becomes positive. You end up with 32 minus 7, which is 25. And I don't care if you do that on your calculator as long as you know what you're doing. Then here, this looks complicated, but it's not. And again, the ACT loves these, so be prepared to do this because the notation is such that a lot of kids don't know what to do. So if you don't let the notation freak you out, you're good to go. What you're going to do is plug 2 into G. So take rule G and find what it equals when you put a 2 where the x was. And again, you can do this on your calculator. It's going to turn into 2 times 4. So that's a 1. So then this whole thing turned out to be 1. So now you're going to plug that in kind of in the second layer and find out what f of 1 is because you work your way from the inside out. So now I go to function f, I'm plugging in a 1 anywhere there used to be an x, and I end up with 8. So my final answer, f of g of 2, is 8. Started inside, plugged 2 into g, then once I got that answer of 1, I plugged that into f. So it's kind of a couple layers. So I'm actually going to jump down here and do the other number one. This looks similar. Well, it looks similar because it's the same. So just kidding. Not going to do that one. All right. Now is when it gets real. So you actually have probably done most of what we've done so far in Algebra 1. But here, I am actually taking the entire rule, which is this, and plugging it into f where there used to be an x. So I'm doing f of and then 2x squared minus 7. That's what I'm plugging in. So if you go to the rule for f over here, you have 3 times whatever you're plugging in plus 5, and what you're plugging in is all of g, 2x squared minus 7. And now you're just going to do whatever math you should do. So I'm going to have distributing here and get 6x squared minus 21. And then I have this plus 5 kind of chilling out here. And then because the minus 21 and the plus 5 are both just numbers, I end up with this. So again, this whole thing, that's function g, gets put into where there used to be an x. And instead of being 3x plus 5, it becomes 3 all of function g plus 5. And then I just math my way through it. So same thing here. This is taking function, function f, and it's going to plug it in wherever there was an x in g. So let's take a look. What is function f? 3x plus 5. So we're going to be taking g of 3x plus 5 because that's what the rule is for f of x. And that's what I'm supposed to plug in. Well, then if I go to g right here, I wrote all over it, so let's erase this so I can see it clearly. what g does is takes 2 and then whatever you're plugging in squared minus 7. And what I'm plugging in is 3x plus 5. This one's kind of hideous. We have done this already, though. We've done this math. We need to know by this point in our math life that squared means multiplied by itself. Also, still PEMDAS, very real. I need to do that exponent part first, so I need to square these two first through FOIL. The 2 will wait out in front. So first is 9x squared, outside is 15x, inside is another 15x, and then these are 25 minus 7. So if I combine these, I'm just doing the FOIL work, honestly. Then after I've done that, I'm going to do my multiplying, which means distributing this 2. So now I have 18x squared plus 60x plus 50 minus 7. There are no other x squareds and there are no other x's, but 50 minus 7 can just become a 43. So that one has more math, which is kind of tricky, but it is math we have done. All right, so this is asking us, and now we have 2 new rules to work with, this and this. This is telling us to take all of g, which is this guy, and put it into f. So I'm going to be taking f of 4x squared. That's what function g is. I'm plugging that in. Here's my rule. Square root of 3 times whatever you're plugging in. So that would turn into the square root of 12x squared. And then we've done all this. We've had to split 12 into 4 times 3 because 4 is a perfect square. And then the square root of 4 would come out as a 2. And the square root of x would come out as an x. And then only the square root of 3 is stuck under there because it's not a perfect square. So if you're like not remembering the math that we've learned over the years, then it can make that really complicated. But truly the only new thing is this first phase of plugging in the whole function. Everything else should be math skills that we've been practicing along the way. Here I'm doing the opposite. I'm taking all of f and plugging it into function g. So I'm doing g of square root 3x. What does g do? Well, according to this, it takes 4 times whatever you're plugging in squared. And what I'm plugging in is the square root of 3x. This square would cancel the root, so I'd end up with 4 times 3x, so ultimately 12x. And again, just math that we've done once you figure out what the function notation is. This one I'm plugging in a number. When you're plugging in a number, you'll get out a number. When you're plugging in an x, you're going to get out a function of x. So I'm going to put 2 into function f. What does f do? F is going to take the square root of 3 times whatever you plug in. So that's going to turn into the square root of 6. So this whole thing is root 6. So then the next layer is to take the square root of what I just got, and then g does this, which is to do 4 and then whatever you're plugging in, which is my square root 6, squared. So I'm putting the square root 6 where there used to be an x. But if I square a square root, then I end up with just 4 times regular 6, and my answer is 24. So first layer is figuring out which one to plug into which, and second layer is doing whatever math you can to simplify it or find the number answer. Alrighty, have a good one.